Call the meeting to order. We have a roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here. Everybody read the agenda, and is it looking for approval for this week's agenda?
Motion to approve agenda.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I hope everybody read the minutes of the last meeting that was sent out. If looking for a motion for approval of the March 12th, 2026 minutes.
Motion approved.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda is what I guess we're here for. But before, I think we're gonna maybe start discussing our rules and specifications and a recent a bill was passed. I don't know if it's been signed or not, but John sent it to us and saw that, and then we, I think, printed one and sent one out to everybody about they passed the legislation that's tightening the regulations on private and decentralized water systems. I mean, I guess it's in lieu of the Wilson County thing. I think that's what caused it all. And our charge was to take the state TDEC regulations and review them, and at least try to get them better than or more stringent than them. But they're going to make new rules, and they've got till July of 2027 to get these new rules. So I don't know where, and I guess I'm leaving it up to y'all where we stand there. Do we go on and do our rules, or do we?
The way I understand that we can have our own rules as long as they are equivalent to what TDEC comes up with, or more. I mean, we can have more than what TDEC comes up with.
Well, we couldn't have.
Okay, so then
We don't know.
but that's what I'm getting at. We don't. I mean, we can go ahead and do it, and then may have to amend at that time. I suppose. I would think. A lot of theirs is bond issues. I think that was a big part of their issues, and of course, I guess inspections and things like that. I think that's a big part of what wasn't done in Wilson County that will probably be addressed pretty strongly on the next when they get the new rules.
Mr. Chairman, I've done some research, and I have a kind of a proposal to hand out, which would probably be greater than the rules that the state would come down with, and it's based on enforcement. No matter what kind of rules we come up with, if we don't have an arm of enforcement, we don't have anything. So I've done some research. I've talked to some different companies that provide these services, and they agreed to go along with some of the rules that I've come up with. And I think before we get into really details, that we need a system whereby anything we come up with can be enforced and make sure it's bonded correctly and taken care of correctly. Could I pass those out at this time?
Yeah, pass them out. I think, of course, that's up to the planning commission. We're just doing the rules. I mean, it'd be up to the planning commission.
Well, this is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
This is all this is. This is the planning commission.
these look kind of more similar like bylaws, more than, yeah, that's what they'd be. Isn't that kind of what you're talking about?
The reason for an environmental board, we have a stress on our water now in this area, and we have a lot of pressure being exerted on our state governments, for example, to bring in AI centers, which is putting a lot of pressure on local communities. And a lot of people don't want this type of stuff in their communities, so I think we need to be able to start controlling our water and our air, and make sure that we make them go through all the hoops necessary before we let something actually come into our community, and the people in the community have a say-so in it, and it's not left up to the state level.
Looks like to me, Danny, that this is a board that would, that the county commission would probably be setting up when.
That's correct. It's an arm of it, a recommended arm of enforcement to the Planning Commission to recommend to the commission for the future on anything to do with environmental issues, not just sewage disposal, but air quality and water quality and sewage disposal.
I think there's some counties that have their own wastewater boards, or that would be similar to that. That'd be the environmental or wastewater board. I think that would be like that'd be.
Yeah, and it's a way you can't have a board like this without having adequate funding. Yeah. And I've proposed, it's not necessary. I've just proposed some fees in there to make sure this can be funded correctly, and I think they're reasonable fees. Past developer myself, I think it's still reasonable to charge these type of fees to be able to accommodate the community and be able to hire the right people to make sure it's checks and balances.
Yeah, I think all these are good, but I think that'd be something that you know, that that's kind of out of our deal right now. I think that'd be something that the commission would have to set up, and then use these. I mean, the fees would be necessary, but that's even out of the planning commission. They don't that'd be set by the county commission, I would suppose. But I think along with what we do, we can pass that along. I think these are good things.
That's all I want to do, is just pass it along as an idea. On other boards that I sit on, if you don't have an enforcement arm, you don't have anything. If you just got rules out here, you've got to have a checks and balance on everything that's done. And one of the things I recommended in here was a 30-year bond. And if the loan or the mortgage is going to be 30 years, the system should be guaranteed for 30 years. And also, there's a retainer by the state, but I think the retainer needs to be controlled by the local government, in the hands of the local government, the escrow accounts, on a 1/30th of every year on the replacements, plus a inflation factor on top of that. That way you are sure that you're going to be monies there to take care of whatever we come up with.
I'm addressing back to legislation. Maybe Eddie, have you heard any talk from any of the utilities about this?
From engineers and from other utilities. I talked to Mr. Nix that came last time and talked to you. What they're telling me is that basically they're advising that counties go ahead and adopt a set of rules, whether it be like their rules, CUD's rules, to the Planning Commission. And that way, no matter what the state does, if yours exceeds the state recommendations, then they will have to meet that at the planning board stage. And that will be the whole, the whole plans and everything. It won't be a wastewater issue. It'll be an approval for the whole subdivision at that point. So that gives you some kind of teeth to do that. So,
Chris, have you heard anything about this?
I read it today, just to kind of see what's in there, and I read some articles and stuff. course, people are saying different things, but, you know, I guess the most I'd have to offer about it is that, you know, TDEC tried to pass their own rules like 5 years ago, and they were unsuccessful. They couldn't get it through the legislature, and that's the reason why they approached us and other planning departments across the state to try to encourage counties and cities to develop their own standards, because they were unsuccessful in doing it, and they recognized that there was a need for it. There was also a lot of conversation at the time. One of the reasons why the builders were up in arms about it was because some of the standards really they were in West Tennessee. They would still like to see local government pass their own regulations. And then, you know, if what happens is if you guys make a recommendation to the planning commission, and then the planning commission ends up adopting something that ends up being less than what TDEC comes up with, they'll just have to amend their regulations to rise up to that level or whatever. It won't be a problem. I think you guys, you've done a lot of hard work, and I think that everything you've done has been really important. So I'd say just keep moving forward. And as you guys work, I know you've met with a lot of people and interviewed a lot of people and learned a lot. So as you get ready to take what you've learned and try to build that into some things to vote on, maybe individually or however you want to choose to do it. And once you get to that point and you get ready to try to make that presentation, then my staff and I can help you build that presentation if you want to do that. So we'll be at your disposal to do whatever you need us to do.
That's exactly, we're getting to that point, so I think we're gonna, you know, we've got a lot of information, and, you know, I don't know, we've gone all the sources, so I think we're gonna be maybe trying to decide some of their things, some of our technical things maybe tonight, and then we'll, you know, be hollering at you to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. You know, I had the guy that Matt, you know, I sent it out to everybody to kind of to see what specific regulations or limits that some things we need to vote on, and, you know, I think y'all sent them, and then I'll pass down, you know, for these acronyms, they got, you know, I got some definitions on them to kind of. There you go. Just, I think that's everybody. Everybody got one. Did you get one, Sammy? There you go. And I thought maybe, you know, what we can do is just, you know, start them, come in there, just, you know, a lot of them, like in the first part are setbacks. You know, that's always a big issue with any kind of planning, is the setbacks. And he kind of mislined some of his, you know, the descriptions. So I called him to see what lined up to what. But I don't know how y'all wanna do it, but do you wanna just start going from one thing to the next and then, yep. Start at the top. So the first one is residential structures, and that's the amount of, feet to a dwelling or a building. And TDEC's recommendation is 10 feet, and Consolidate was 10 feet, but he's recommending 50 feet.
I thought that was a number of dwellings per project.
Oh, I don't have that.
I thought this number 2 was property line setback.
Kind of out of line is that he's recommending and that's from the
Is that from the street then?
no, it's from the wastewater treatment area. It'd be 50. You have a house. It'd be 50 feet from the facility, or from the field or what the what it would be, the disposal area. What would it be called?
The treatment plant.
Treatment plant, and then anything to do with the treatment plant. And that makes sense that you would want a house at least 50 feet from it. I don't know why it's as little as 10. Yeah, I guess it's to do anything to do with the system, maybe the drip or the facilities.
That's the way I read it.
Yeah.
I have to clarify that with Matt.
But I mean, we can put whatever we want. I mean, the state is 10, and he think it should be 50, and Consolidated is 10.
Who thinks it should be 50?
That Matt with
Matt Taylor?
yeah.
Before I could vote on anything on this, I need a clarification on exactly what we're talking about here, I think.
I asked him, is it 50 feet from the residence to the anything to do with the wastewater system?
So this would be the protected area then, for the dispensing of the wastewater.
It's on YouTube. Get confirmation of it.
I have the
Okay.
telephone number, or if you want me to try to give them a call.
Yeah. I mean, you could, but I think because to the property, he moved it up. Also, the recommendation of 25 to the property line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would think that you'd want a structure a pretty good distance from a drip line. A whole lot more than 10 feet. From a drip line, from a drip line, or or
the structure.
yeah.
Or
Just
the
you-
treatment facility.
So,
For the treatment facility or the drip line.
no, no.
Huh?
Okay, I'm not understanding then.
Eddie, would you address this, please, for us?
Only on like a regular septic system or any kind of drip, the drip line or the field line are normally at least 10 feet from the property line. And then, like you're saying, the treatment plant or structure would probably be 50 feet from any nearby houses. That's the way I read that. I've texted Matt to see if he could clarify, but I'll let you know if I get an answer. So.
Yeah, I think it would be the dwelling would be 50 feet, and then any property line could be 10 feet.
In Greystone that we showed you during the last month's presentation, the chain link fence that's bordering the treatment facility, there's houses on both sides that are probably within 20 feet on the Murfreesboro's. So that gives you an idea what other utilities are doing, but I think the 50 feet is probably what he's going from the actual structure. So.
Yeah, from the actual dwelling or any building. So I guess that would be an accessory, like to be accessory building as well.
Well, your standard setback's gonna be 35 in the rear, and what, 10 on the sides? 5. Unless you do a PUD and you get tighter. Yeah, on the,
Yeah, it's one thing to have a setback for a property line and a house, but it's another thing altogether to have a setback for this system. And I think that that's a smart thing to do if you guys are look at trying to keep any residential structure at least 50 foot away from any part of the system. And then as far as the system itself, as far as especially the drip dispersal area, maybe 10 or 15 or whatever you want to do from a property line, because most of these are going to be fields and things like that. And, you know, if they're on the edge of a property line, they really need the 10 feet to be able to maintain it, to get around it with equipment and stuff like that, and not actually inundate the site, you know, with the equipment, so, or tear anything up. But, you know, these systems, if they're maintained properly, as you know, you guys have learned a lot. You don't need me up here preaching to you about it, but as long as they're maintained, they tend to work really well. But, you know, the ones that have a lapse in maintenance sometimes do have effluent, you know, coming out of them and, you know, into a stream, you know, kind of making a stream and flowing away from the site and even getting on other people's property. So 50 feet from a residence, I think, is a smart thing, regardless of what the setbacks for the house and the property lines should be just a totally separate thing. I don't even think you should even consider what that is. Just look at it like there's setbacks from the system, you know, that deal with the house and with the property line. Probably two different types of setbacks.
Yeah, and typically we would be less dense than maybe Rutherford County in some areas anyway, maybe.
Right.
But so what do y'all think?
I think that's good, except if we don't include the tank itself that's in the yard.
Right.
It's gotta be just a disbursement area.
This is just to the wastewater system.
The treatment facility and the drip line.
Yeah. I don't know, do y'all want to vote on each one of these, or just, you know, have a general consensus?
Mr. Chairman, I would like for us to discuss each one of them and then go back and
Okay.
vote on one of,
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure we don't have any
How we got
overlap
it?
on some
Okay.
of these.
All right, we can do that. Okay, the next one is the distance to the property line. Is it, you know, the TDEC 10 and CUD is I think they mislined that.
This
I think.
distance to the property line is also for the treatment facility or the drip line. I think that 25 foot would be plenty close. for me anyway.
I agree also with you, Sam.
Anybody else have anything on that? Well, the, they're, the CUD, that 100 is for the, well or spring.
Yes.
But the next one would be, to a well or a spring, 100 feet. You need at least that. I mean, it probably won't be an issue, but it could be with a, it could be could possibly have a spring.
I would agree with that on the well unless it's engineer sealed, and you can do that. You can engineer seal the well. If it goes through the engineer process, and the engineers, we've done that before and sealed the well off completely.
Yeah, a spring or a sealed well. A live well, you're gonna need at least 100 feet.
Yeah, because that goes from that, you won't never, even a sealed well, I mean, that goes, would get into the water system possibly. But at least 100, I think 100 is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, with
yeah,
a
it'd be in, you just don't know. We just, that was the question, I think this legislation is forcing them to do something they didn't want to do on the front end. They're gonna have to make some rules, and it's gonna be tough to make it statewide. So I think anything, because we had access to some good sources. And I think we're lucky that we have, the people that talk to us, and there's no doubt that consolidated is gonna be more stringent, and, I think, but, we wanna try to be, reasonable on it, so I think that's kinda what he was trying to be. That's what he was trying to be, is reasonable on them.
I still think we need to consider sealed wells because you seal them from the bottom up, and you have to have an engineer on site while you're doing that. And
So
it's-
if it's a weld on site, it needs to be sealed?
if it's within 100 feet and it's sealed, it's okay. That's how they do all wells and other wells.
That sounds reasonable. Okay, the next one would be, water, storm main, underground utilities. And that was recommending 10 feet.
That's because the building envelopes are so compressed that you've got to have at least 10 feet in between those by state regulation.
So that sounds reasonable.
That's very reasonable.
Okay, the next one is important, is the stream, sinkhole, or drainway, and that's from the top of the bank. So any of the wastewater systems should be at least, both of the, T-Deck was 25 and CUD is 25, and he thinks he should be at least 50.
I agree with the 50 or more. Well, when you look at this picture on the front of this, where we printed out for this legislation, that's been passed, that pool of water that has come up from a failed system, if you, it could get over 50 feet real quick.
At the present time, as a developer or a farmer or anybody out here, if you get within 25 feet of a blue line stream, you're infringing on the state law
You know, there'll be a lot of drainways produced in the development, you know, that weren't there, that really are not streams, you know, so I mean, wouldn't want it to be too much. I'd think a sinkhole ought to be the same as a well, just about, but,
Well, you can actually engineer seal those. We've done those before too. You have to seal it from the bottom up with concrete, and the engineer has to be on site.
but apparently, you know, 25 feet was recommended, and then having at least 50 may be.
What about 35?
We can auction it off. It doesn't, I don't know, but I mean, it's just because of, in the development part of it, you'll have drainways that, you know, were man-made, and that would be a little bit of a, could be a little issue with the development, maybe, I don't know.
It can be a pretty major issue with storm drainage the way it is now.
But I have no feeling either way.
I say being his recommendation's 50, let's go with 50.
How's that? Yeah, 50? Okay. Like a majority on it. All right. Treatment. So that might be the drip line.
Is that the same thing we've already discussed up at the top?
No, that at the top is dwellings or other buildings. This is talking about, distance from the sinkholes, stream water, detention, stormwater detention, and,
I thought we just talked about sinkholes and drainages. I thought we were down on treatment property line, and we got property lines number 2 up there at the top also. See? Property line,
you're right.
property line.
Well, why didn't, my sheet didn't print out that property line. Do you have that? All right. Well, I don't know where this.
Could you address that for us while we got 2 property line issues here?
In front of me, but, I mean, what we normally do is, like I said, we have a certain distance off for the drip line if we're plowing in drip line area, or there's a distance off from the treatment.
See, there's 25, that's 25.
Yeah.
Is that the duplication?
What's the treatment, do you think? What's the,
The treatment area would be your plant. That would be your BioClear filters, your tanks,
Sand
anything
filters.
that, anything sand filters, anything that would be the treatment area. What we would call the treatment area, I would say that would be one of your property lines, and the other would be just your drip line or any of the.
I think we addressed that.
I do. I think the 25 is what he's referring to. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We have had drip line around 10 foot from property lines on a lot of
I think we
systems.
kind of addressed this. We throwed it all into one up here at the top.
It says drip line shall have a minimum of 10-foot setback from the property lines. Primary and reserve drip fields shall have a minimum 25-foot setback from designated stream buffers, and recirculating sand filter facilities or the treatment area shall have a minimum of 100-foot setback from the property line, sinkholes, and detention ponds.
Okay,
Right.
that's, so that's the
Kind of, yes, sir.
building, okay.
Yep. Yep.
So they're, he's recommending to reduce that, I don't, he's saying 25 and 50 feet.
Well, I think they got in line with what we did in Article 2, where we had 25. We talked about the treatment plant and the fill line distribution of the waste also.
Let's do this one. The treatment and the fill line, that's two different things, so.
Right.
So this will be, this will be the structures, but it's got the treatment thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think they should be definitely further. But, yeah, I don't know whether you wanna. I'm sorry. I mean, it's up to y'all. What do y'all think? 100 feet,
100 feet.
100 feet on both of them?
Now, we are discussing that these would be 100 feet from sinkholes and drainage ways and all. Is that correct?
Okay,
Drainage ways is separate, don't you think?
100 feet for the wells.
What about drainage ways?
And the drainage ways, we were saying 50.
Yeah, okay, not 100.
Well, what you got to consider is both sides of the drainage ditch. So you're talking about, go 50, you're talking about 100 feet. You're talking about 100, so you have to double that. What we have to be cognizant of is the fact that we want to make sure we do the protections necessary, but not overkill it by using up so much land that would run the cost up, so.
It seemed the 100 feet, I mean, I don't know, why to reduce that, but to the treatment, I think 100 feet's plenty.
Well, I go along with the smaller amount because you really don't have any discharge. All you've got is the building. The only possibility would be a leakage from a pipe or something, so you might have a breakage there. Therefore, you don't have the discharge there, so the building itself is not an environmental issue.
Wouldn't they typically be in the middle, toward the middle of it anyway?
That I know certain utilities that we're working for right now that have had issues with homeowners that are right beside the treatment plants and having odor issues or saying they have odor issues. And so I would almost, for that aspect, maybe give yourself a little buffer on that, just on that issue. But as far as the drip line and all that being up to the property line, I think that's whatever the state and stuff is recommending.
Okay. Yeah, with the older thing, that might be a thing.
Why would Mr. Taylor ever want to reduce that from 100 to 25, and you have any idea?
Yeah.
I know he does a lot of engineering and design of subdivisions, and I think he has to take the use of the property in consideration. That's what he's done here.
What do y'all think? 100
I would
or
leave it
50?
at 100.
100? 100?
Sounds good to me.
Keith, 100?
Sounds good.
Everybody, Danny, you guys get
I'm gonna
Still would
disagree,
like to
but
know
that's
why
my
the
privilege
difference
to
is.
do that.
the,
I mean, I hate voting on something or recommend something. We don't have any reason why. That's a drastic change.
yeah, yeah. 100.
CUD's requiring 100. TDEC's not requiring any.
Yeah, when they don't do that, then, and I think, he said,
At this time.
a lot of these are what they're doing, the one like the 50 and 25, I think is what, Matt and them do.
I'm thinking that the 100 would be more than anything, as you said, because of smell. Not necessarily any, terrible ground environmental conditions, but smell could be noxious to homeowners if they're too close to something that is emitting odors.
So is it just a savings in cost when we go to 25 from 100? I mean, that's the only logical explanation.
More land, yeah.
If it becomes an issue, and it's, yeah, about 75, well, we got, what do you say, John?
You don't know where the state's going.
Don't know where the state going, but, I mean, that would
Like you
be,
said, you can always put an amendment after the fact.
Right.
y'all wanna go 75 then?
75.
75,
I'll go.
75.
One what?
For the treatment to the property line, the treatment to sinkholes, 75.
I'd like to see the 25 double myself, go to 50.
Yeah,
50 and 75.
okay, 50,
Treatment of the property line, 50 and 75.
okay.
Treating the sinkholes, the stormwater. They're 100 both. They're 25 and 50. So we're kind of
Unless the sinkhole has been engineered sealed. It would be zero if they're engineered sealed, because we have tremendous amount of sinkholes in this karst area we live in. It would use up a tremendous amount of land. And if you can engineer seal that sinkhole, I think it'd be advantageous for all parties concerned, but it's a very tedious process to get these things sealed, and it's very expensive to do.
Okay, now we're gonna get a little bit more technical. And we're talking about the more technical, we're going to gallons per day per square foot of how much to put in there. So, you know, and that, of course, this is our main thing when we're dealing with, you know, how good the soils are.
Yeah.
So, you know, the TDEC recommendation is 25 gallons per day per square foot. And that's, of the volume of the effluent going in.
I recommend we go to 20 and 15.
20 and 15.
20 on the well-drained soils and 15 on moderately well-drained.
That is .20, not 20, .20.
Correct.
.20. You say stay, .20 on the, well drain,
Well-drained.
and a moderately, would be a
15,
little less
point-
stringent
point
with
one five.
.15. That's a little bit less stringent than the lower it is, the more stringent it is. Is that right?
But greater than the TDEC requirements.
I think that .10 is gonna be where we'll be going to.
Could be.
I don't think I'm qualified enough to make a call on this.
I don't know if they'll go from 25 to 10, but they might, in which case we'll just have to adjust.
This is where a soil scientist on every particular job has to come in, and
Yeah.
the soil can change in 20 feet in this area, from really good soil to really bad soil. And in part of that recommendation, I would hope that the county could charge enough money in the end to be able to bring in a soil scientist to review these things and to make sure certain criteria is met there.
We need,
Right.
the county will need to have their very own soil scientist to help determine whether these systems are workable or not.
That's part of the proposal that I presented
I
today.
have Matt on the phone.
Hey,
You want to put him on speaker?
Well,
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Matt, this is the board that you were working with. They had some questions about your setback. You mind answering them?
Sure.
Okay, here you go. I'll just let you guys.
Matt, Matt, we had a question on our features. We were talking about the distance, the treatment to the property line. Is the treatment,
sir.
is that the where they're running through all the systems to clean it?
Yes, sir. That would be the BioClears and
Yeah.
the control building.
Okay, all right. That's what, is that clear that up for y'all?
Well, we wanted to know why the difference.
Okay. Yeah, why the difference, of 100 feet to the treatment area and 25 to like sinkholes or let's see, or the property lines? Why is it further? Because of possible smell or something?
No, there generally is no smell at all. I mean, if a pump breaks or something, you could get a smell, but once you get the pump repaired or replaced, there's not going to be smell at all. It just basically, from the sinkholes, we're just offsetting them. We just give it a little bit more offset than T-Deck. And then, from the other features, you got like from the top of the bank, we're just trying to be clear, like from the top of the bank or from the easement, to be clear as to where the setback is from.
Okay. All right, okay, Matt, the CUD recommendation was 100, and then I guess what yours is and what you recommended us was like 25. So would that be to try to get as much property for lots or, because that was a pretty big drastic difference?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you end up with a bunch of unusable property that there really, in our opinion, is not necessary.
Okay, we got our answer.
Okay, that's an answer. Any more? Anything else? We're right now we're on the we're discussing the moderate well drained soils. You recommended on the moderate 0.10, and we're considering 0.15, and but that's where we are right now.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, I mean, once again, it's just, the well-drained soils at 0.2 is less than what TDEC requires, and the 0.1 for the moderately well-drained soils. Again, it's just kind of really, honestly, it's just a preference. And based on what we've done, the designs that we've done, and the systems that we've operated, we found that works very well.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I think that's all we need right now. We may call you again.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye.
I think that each engineer and each soil scientist have their own opinions.
Well, again, the 0.10 is more stringent, and so that might be where they lean to. So he tends to not be as stringent as CUD. So I think he's
That is true.
yeah. So I mean
Mm-hmm.
he feels like that might be
That is
good.
important to him, obviously.
Yeah. You would think that he would go the other way, but yep, that's right. Yep.
So, having heard that, are we still staying at
Well,
0.15?
it's at the will of the committee. Y'all were all right with the .20, and,
I'd go with the .10.
it was, that was kind of the commission wanted us to be, on a little bit tougher side, so, we're trying to, that was our charge, so that might be, again, it's something that we can go, but Keith, what do you say, 1-0?
.20 and .10?
Yeah. Casey, you got? I can go with that. Then,
The same thing as what we've got.
yeah,
here.
what have we got
What the
there?
engineers recommended.
What they recommended.
Yeah, I think he's more of the expert than I. And we've gone along with most of his recommendations to this point. But I still think that the county's gonna have to have somebody working for them to analyze this in the long run.
Well, CUD they didn't have one at first, and then that'd be a pretty, he just had to have one on retainer, I suppose. They couldn't have one full time, but,
Or the
if you
reason
have
for
one
that,
if you can get one to come within a reasonable time, that's the issue nowadays. You get a soil scientist that,
Good luck.
unless some people can get them the next day, some of them the next year.
the reason they did that was they took the licensing away for the soil scientist. So it made it where a lot of people could do that. Because it took so long to get something done is the reason they took the licensing away. So I think that's the reason CUD did what they did.
Yeah, that's right.
It wouldn't-
Well, let's go down to this. We did good there. The drip tube spacing, I think, 5 foot would be reasonable to me. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
you got something?
I thought I'd add one thing to think about with CUD and their decision to do their own perk test, because they basically had one, I'm not going to call it a failed system, but it's an almost failed system. They had one, it was about one of the original ones, one of the first ones they ever did. And it's about 40-year-old system, and they ended up having to buy some land adjacent to it to be able to build another drip dispersal area for it. And when they kind of did the autopsy on what happened with that, because one thing we know, we can't really compare Lebanon or Wilson County to CUD, because CUD, they're known for their maintenance, they're known for their high standards, and so they don't really have any failures. Where in Wilson County, they had a lot of failures because they're not doing those things. But for CUD to have a failure, that's a big deal because they have really stringent standards. So, but when they did the autopsy on it, they went back and they did a soils analysis, and they realized that the original soils work was wrong, and the soils were nowhere near as high quality as they had been reported to be. And that had a big impact on the sustainability of the system. It lasted 40 years, but then if they hadn't bought the adjacent site, they wouldn't have it. So I would say that also probably factored into that decision, that they wanted to have some hands-on on the soils report, because that's going to be such an important part of this equation, is to make sure that the soils are what the soils are reported to be. And so, anyway, that's all.
And that soil scientist is retired and, forgotten about, I guess.
Yeah.
That's where the bonding comes in, that you hold the engineers and the soil scientists and the contractors all accountable from not just next week or next year, for a long time.
Could I ask you a question, Chris? Do you agree that there needs to be a body of enforcement to go along with our regulations or not?
Yeah, I guess I would have to see what that looks like. Of course, at the end of the day, you guys are going to, I try not to dig too much into what you guys are doing, because I just want it to be really more of a pure thing that you guys are doing, because I'll get my chance to talk about it ad nauseum whenever it gets to the planning commission. But at the end of the day, if it becomes this county entity, then there is some enforcement on that end, because then it becomes a misdemeanor when you violate it. So rather than it just being kind of a contractual sort of agreement between engineers and whatnot. So, but yeah, I mean, it's got the key to the success of these systems is maintenance, and if there's got to be a way to ensure that the maintenance is being done, and there has to be some sort of repercussion. And so, yeah, I mean, we're not currently, in my office, we're not currently staffed to deal with those kind of things. So yes, it would have to be something that's brought on. If you remember a few years ago when we were trying to pass a wastewater authority through the state, would be a legislative sort of act we'd have to have done. And of course, a lot of the naysayers sort of stole the narrative and started telling people we were trying to take over the septic systems and we were going to do all kinds of crazy things, which, no, it wasn't like that at all. Really, so that you will know the truth of it, the methodology behind doing going through the legislature and forming a wastewater authority was to be able to collect a tariff on it, because what my vision for the wastewater authority was that not that it's a utility, even though it's in the law like a utility. If you pass it, you have the powers of a utility, but the way I envisioned it for the county was that we would have a set of bylaws and have very limited power. But the one thing they can do that the planning commission couldn't do is that they could assess a fee so that the utility that's owning it and maintaining it and collecting the revenue for it would have to remit a portion of that fee to this wastewater authority, and the wastewater authority could create something what I would call like a super fund. And that way, if you get a subdivision that's 30 or 40 years old and you have a failure, and then simultaneously you have a problem with the utility itself, and maybe they're not as stable as you'd like for them to be, that super fund could be used to grant like a zero interest loan or something like that to this public entity that could then solve the problem for the homeowner. And at the end of the day, it would be like a consumer protection sort of thing, where the wastewater authority really wouldn't have any power other than to just exist as an entity and collect that fee, and then that fee could be used to, like I said, like a super fund, just to bail people out. And wouldn't be anything that any of us would see in our lifetime, but I'm just trying to look at it down the road as a 30 or 40 year thing. And of course, it turned into something way bigger
utility
than.
company, they're escrowing money for that too, but you're talking about having something outside of that.
Right, like at the planning commission level, we wouldn't be able to pass anything like that. We don't have the jurisdiction to do it, but county commission could pass a fee, and decide how it's going to be used and that kind of stuff. But I do think that at the end of the day, that would be a wise move to make, and it would be a great recommendation out of this body to the planning commission if you guys wanted to think about that. And I know, because Denny's already talked about it, and I think it's a great idea, and I don't know how you want to structure that, because the way I was going to do it was totally different, probably way more complicated than it needed to be, and that certainly became that. But at the end of the day, it was just a pure, rational sort of thought, is to look in the future and see what needs we would have. And I didn't really sort of think of it as a board that got paid a bunch of money and you collect this. I thought about it just like you would this, like there's people volunteering, just like we have these small boards all up through the county that people volunteer or they get paid $30 a meeting or $50 or whatever. But most of the money would be used to set aside to fix a failed system, because if you've invested in that home for 30 years, you're there. That's where you're staying, and you need that system to work. And in 30 years from now, who knows if there's any land even next door to get. You might have to go down the road 1,000 feet. That could be a pretty expensive fix. And if the utility company is not solvent enough to make those repairs, then this fund could be used to help them.
In major on this legislation, that they were talking about the same thing. about the counties. It's gonna fall back on the county.
Mm-hmm.
So they may address that, possibly, I doubt it.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's strong enough what they're looking at myself, and I've been a developer. I think that a developer should pay their fair share in making sure this is taken care of. Now, the state asked the escrows be set aside for these. I think it needs to be a 30-year escrow. And I'd like for just what I propose just to be read into the minutes is all. And that way, if they're interested in kind of what I'm talking about, there needs to be a way to hire the right people and not cost the people of the county and the county any money. It should be carried by the developer themselves, the cost of this, and the contractor who comes in and contracts to take care of the system. And the escrows have to be audited every year because escrows have a tendency to disappear if they're not controlled. They got to be controlled by two parties, which the escrow should be in the county's name and the contractor's name as well.
I think that'd be good, because that's what they're worried about. Because eventually, I mean, if it fails, it's going, utility's gone, and everybody else is the homeowner HOA is gone. It's going to go on the county, so it'd be important to do that. So we may need to, you know, and then you've addressed that some in what you put on there.
Mine was just kind of an outline proposal. It needs to be done legally.
Yeah.
But everything that's done then has to have an appellate process for an appeal, that I think the government does, and you have to have an appellate board too. My recommendation was to be pro bono until most sewer boards and water boards and cities, the people get paid to meet. It has to be I'm never charged for any board I've ever sat on travel or anything. I think I owe it back to the community. But at some point, maybe there's enough money to pay a possibility for taking time to do that.
But
And
looking in some way to do the super fund like you're talking about, I mean, that's something that I think would be, it would make the county, anybody that with that system, feel a little bit safer, you know.
well,
and then,
that's what the escrow is. The escrow, if it's handled correctly, is your super fund.
yeah, it's a insurance policy. All right, let's go to this. We'll try to, if we can, try to get through this tonight if we can. The drip tube spacing 4 or 5 feet. 5, okay? Okay, the next one is the
Mr.
biggest, the
Chairman?
biggest.
I don't have a copy of what you're discussing now.
That was in a, it was in an email, there were two files, there were two different, two pages.
I don't have the second one.
What it is the distance, is the distance between the drip lines. You know, the way I understand it, it's either 4 foot or 5 foot.
The parallel distance.
Parallel distance.
Next one's the land application
Yeah.
reserve area.
The next one is the reserve area that's
Oh, that's a biggie.
that's the biggie where TDEC doesn't recommend anything, and then CUD right now is 50, and then the other one's 50, and then you know he mentioned as much as 100, but you know,
That's a lot.
but most people feel like that's excessive.
Yeah.
50 seems to be
I agree with it.
50.
I agree with 50.
And actually, when I was talking to Matt, they're proposing some kind of a where, for instance, if it required 2 acres, you know, as the original, then it means another acre you would have to have. And they're made know something about it, is that is a possibility of is having the 2 acres and another half acre that they go on and put the lines in.
Yes, they are in discussion with TDEC right now. What they're asking is if they can reduce even that 50% if they go ahead and require that the drip line go ahead and be put into that area. And that way it will be sitting there ready. If there is trouble, then they just have to hook it up and go.
That'd be like using what we discussed, an overflow. You know,
Yeah.
for the overflow, instead of having a pond or something, that could be used as overflow, and
So
then
they're trying to weigh out whether 50% is adequate, or if they could go 30, 25% with the drip line already installed, and it's sitting there waiting already installed. So that's something they are working on.
they're working on that. And
An either or choice.
Yeah.
Well-
I think that's what we go with.
but I mean,
50.
I think that's in the, it,
Install the drip line.
that's just kind of a discussion point now, I don't think. And that might be part of what, in the new regulations that come up, that might be one of them they put in there. But I thought that was interesting, where they're looking into ways where you don't have to have the extra 100%. So if everybody's okay with 50, we'll go with that.
And could we make it possible, if they come up with an agreement to where they can reduce that by installation of additional lines, that Chris could bring that back to the commission at a later date for recommendation?
Yeah, with science gets better, sometimes we can do things. So I mean, if they make it use less land, it it shouldn't be any problem. But everything's going to be open for discussion and to be revisited. Okay, the next one is where I needed for the acronyms. I need the definition of them.
Biochemical oxygen demand.
Yeah, the definition of the BOD is measures the amount of oxygen consumed by bacteria while breaking down biodegradable organic materials in water. And all these recommendations were they were the same, and then the ones that were blank, and
I don't have it either.
y'all don't have that. And
It seems reasonable with the 45, 40, 50, and 15.
and the MGLs are milligrams per liter. Sammy, do you see that? Because this talks about the nitrogen too.
Here again, I think we have to go on an expert's kind of recommendation. That's
Yeah,
not our
yeah.
field of expertise.
Yeah, of course I had to look up what it was, so I mean I couldn't.
I would recommend we go with recommend.
Proposal they were talking about.
Yes.
Let me insert something here. They called me from Florida this week, a company did, and they're doing a new system in Florida where they actually treat the wastewater at the house and disperse on site. And you don't have accumulation fields. They just do it on site. So there's new stuff coming about all the time. You do it on the lot itself.
It'd be like our field lines now. It just was not as
But the water is treated
It's treated before it
before
goes
it's
in the
treated
house.
at the house, when it comes out of the sewer lines at the house.
they can use that water to water their plants.
That's right.
That would be a breakthrough.
What happened?
Well, it's nothing has happened yet, but it's nothing with TX overnight.
It seems like a very good system, though, and it's very logical for the future, yeah. You could actually use it back in a swimming pool or,
They have a system that can actually treat it well enough to discharge it to a spring. So that'd be, that's a game changer. What it would do is it allow you to even do like a hotel.
it would allow commercial development a lot easier, yeah. Just probably have to be a flowing water body.
You have to have someplace
Thank you for sharing.
I don't, I just got the phone call. I
Yeah.
think Dr. Buchanan's University of Tennessee told the guy to call me.
They're doing some, they were actually here.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's the only things that when I asked him, I said, there are these, you know, things that we need to decide. You know, we've got the two documents, and then we have this information, and then there may be, you know, there may be other things we need to decide, but I don't know what they are. But Chris and I talked earlier in the week, and then what we'd like to do is maybe, you know, what Chris, we mentioned maybe if we can get these consolidated some way. Casey, can you get some kind of put it together, and then give it to Chris, and then I don't know how long it'll take you, but I mean I don't know as far as our next meeting. You address that, Chris. What do you think we could do with it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really depends on how much data you give me as to how long it takes. But yeah, I mean, I can prepare your whatever you guys get ready to turn over to the planning commission. I can prepare it for the planning commission agenda and help you in that way. You know, once you guys vote on all the things you need to vote on and sort of summarize what your recommendations are going to be. And once you turn those over to me, then I'll be happy to turn that into a recommendation to the planning commission for.
I guess what we need to is that we get all our information to you, and then I guess it needs to be brought before us, and then we'll review it,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
we vote to send it to the planning commission, and then at that point, you know, we had a year of October, you know, we're way under it, but so I mean, I don't see, and y'all correct me why we need to meet again until we hear back from with some kind of document we can send to the planning commission.
Can we
Chris,
go back and review the, get them in the minutes? Going back to the first one, set back to the residential structures. Well, what I thought to do is if we can review these, make sure I get them right, and then we can do a consent vote on all of them. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. All at the same time. The setback to the residential structure dwellings buildings set at 50? Setback to the property line? Setback to potable water?
100,
Setback to water, stormwater main from the easement, underground utilities?
10,
Setback to stream, sinkhole, or drainage way from the top of the bank?
Unless engineered sealed sinkholes. Unless engineered sealed sinkholes.
Excluding,
No, if it's an engineered sealed sinkhole, you don't have to have a setback.
so you'd be excluding,
That's right. I mean, that's my suggestion.
excluding engineered
I
sealed sinkholes.
think it need to be some, because you don't want to build on top of it.
You can actually build on top of it,
You can actually.
yeah.
Setback from treatment to the property line.
25. No, that's 50.
50.
50.
Setback from treatment area to sinkholes, stormwater retention.
75.
Soil type, swell drain soils, 0.20 GPD, moderately well-drained soils, 0.10 GPD, drip tube spacing, 5-foot centers, land application reserve area, 50%, treatment effluent limits, BOD less than or equal to 45 milligrams a liter, TSS less than or equal to 40 milligrams per liter, TKN 50 milligrams per liter, nitrogen less than or equal to 15 milligrams per liter. Correct?
Correct.
I would like to, I'm sorry, you're not through yet.
With,
The two areas where it's got sinkholes, I want it to be applicable to both those areas. If those are engineered sealed in both locations, they would be exempt. We've got two areas that mention sinkholes. One's at 25.
3 areas.
7.
Yeah.
And then I added 3 other items in here which can be for discussion. You know, one was at Chris's recommendation, establish oversight board, well, part of Denny's as well. Establish an oversight board appointed by the county commission to approve the management companies to manage and maintain systems, enforce the wastewater requirements, and to levy and collect fees as reasonably established and recommended by the oversight board and approved by the county commission.
so you hear that, Chris?
Never mind.
To establish an oversight board appointed by the county commission to approve the management companies of the wastewater systems that will manage and maintain the systems, enforce the wastewater requirements, and to levy and collect fees as reasonably established and recommended by the oversight board and approved by the county commission.
That sound all right with y'all?
Next one was require bonding against future failures.
Eddie had something that,
Something that I was wanting to bring to your attention, that I know this board has been put together to kind of set the regulations for the treatment plant, drip field, and that aspect of it. But I think you should take into consideration whether or not you're gonna have a step tank at each house, or if you're gonna have a gravity system to a centralized tank that will pump to the treatment plant, because that can affect your treatment plant in different ways. So I think those are aspects that you might want. And if you get into putting a step tank at each house, what percentage of responsibility is that the homeowners, and what is it the counties or whoever's maintaining these systems?
I thought the tank was at every house anyway.
Normally they are CUD. All the ones that I've done in around Rutherford County are the ones that we're doing in Spring Hill and Thompson Station are all gravity from the house. They take the solids and everything that comes through the trunk line down to a centralized tank, and then they pump from that over to the EQ tanks, primary tanks, and then it goes through the filtration system. What they are finding out is they're having to put a filter in front of those tanks from that centralized tank, because they're getting a bigger sludge layer and it's causing more odor. And that's why I was telling you to maybe be leery about how close you get your houses next to the treatment plant. But those are things I think you need to take into consideration, because it can come around to you. So
I think if we lock it down too much, we take out other people who can, and it should be left up to the individual company and what they do. And I don't think we need to get into those regulations there.
It might be
Because
too,
it's like the company in Florida that's got something new. They have their own special way of doing things, and if we narrow that down, we're gonna throw out some companies that might not wanna do it exactly the same way, and we need to be able to open the marketplace up to as many people as possible.
And I don't know if CUD's regulations cover the house tank or not, but that might be something you want to look into.
I mean,
as
I
far-
thought, when we discussed that, I thought there was a tank at every one of
But
them.
I know the homeowner has some responsibility into the tank,
Yeah.
but there's an easement area around the tank that has to be designated on the plat, so that if CUD has to dig that tank up and replace it, they can get in there and work. So
I remember, one of them said that, if there was, they didn't take care of them, they could charge that homeowner
Yeah.
you know, so repairs. And then, you know, John Freeman, he suggested not even, you know, make it illegal to rent, but that's a little bit too far too, but, but
just
I
wanted
would,
to bring
I,
that up.
I don't know if that's something we need to put in there. I guess just, I would think it would just have individual tanks.
I think we should leave that up to the engineers.
Whatever the engineer
What
requires.
the engineers
Yeah.
says is,
Yeah, just, yeah, if you do anything like just whatever engineer would,
The other two items I had in there were to require bonding against future failures, and then lastly, require a county retained soil scientist to validate soils on behalf of the county prior to approval of installation of system at cost to owner developer.
would you put in there about, you know, the inspection requirements? Would that be something would be in there, or is that just the utility,
That's what I put
policy?
here about. Establish the oversight board appointed by the county commission to approve the management companies that will manage and maintain the systems, enforce the wastewater requirements, and to levy and collect fees as reasonably established and recommended by the oversight board and approved by the county commission.
Yeah, if they don't like how they inspect, then we wouldn't choose them. I guess that's right, okay.
I would like for something to be included about the escrow. There would be an escrow account on each provider of services with the oversight of the county, local government. In other words, if we require a 30-year bond, and every year there has to be an escrow amount equal to 1/3 of that plus inflation, that the county be in charge of that and be able to handle that and have those monies in a local bank.
I
And-
sort of charactered that under the levy and collect fees and reasonably established and recommended by the oversight board. We'll let them, I mean, that's just why we'll let them.
That was what Chris was talking about. That's something we, you know,
We
do,
wanna leave them some.
you know, for, you know, a legacy that you could have for the county to, you know, to, keep the county from having to,
That's what
Take
I'm
for-
doing it for. I don't
I
have no
think-
10-year plan at my age.
yeah. So I mean, I think that's part of what we're discussing. I think that's what we want to do.
For a motion to a consent vote on just these items.
Yeah. Can I hear a motion on what Casey would read, so that we may present that to the, for Chris to consolidate, to get us a document back for us to,
I'll make a motion that we present this to Chris for him to put it in form and bring it back to us for a full approval by the board.
and then at that point, Chris would contact me and then I would set a meeting.
Yes,
So
it'll be
add
left up to
that
the
in
chair
there.
to set the meeting whenever he so desires.
Second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Okay. Next, I guess, is any old business?
It's been a pleasure to work with this group. It's a very difficult task when we're trying to take on the future.
Yeah.
And for somebody as old as I am, we have to leave a legacy for the younger people.
Yeah, and I appreciate been 100% attendance every time. That's something to be said right there.
I would like to make a request that we have a written copy, each one of us, of this proposed document before us in the meeting next time.
Yeah. For
Seems
us,
to be some problems with the email.
if that was one thing I was wondering about, because we're not supposed to be spending any money, so you're gonna have to spend some money, because we were challenged not to spend any money. So okay, got plenty of paper, and then if we could get this document, and then I can send, when we set the meeting, Casey can send that document out to everybody.
Chris can cover that expense
And
since he's a published writer now, and his books are on Amazon.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, All in favor? Aye, thank everybody.
I want you to have one of these. I don't know whether they're doing this to you or not, but they're contaminated.